Welcome to Self-Centered Living, a podcast that serves as a vital platform for women of color to take charge of our narratives and where our voices are amplified. I'm your host, Trish, and here we delve into our diverse experiences and rich humanity through a blend of personal stories and insightful discussions with a range of guests. Our aim is to foster meaningful connections and understanding among our listeners. In this episode, I'm excited to have Kyrah Potter join me for a heartfelt discussion about her journey to an Ivy League education as she approaches the end of her fourth and final year at one of the nation's top universities. For the first time in the series, we hear from a member of Gen Z, someone entering adulthood amid uncertainty and navigating a landscape where they often have fewer rights than several previous generations. It's a particularly poignant time for Kyrah as she faces the challenge of charting a path forward without the physical presence of her greatest supporter, her mother, Ingrid Warrington. Through our conversation, we'll explore how Kyrah keeps Ingrid close by drawing on her confidence, self-belief, and unwavering commitment to her passions. Consider Kyrah's relationship to her evolving story. As you reflect on Kyrah's story, consider a key supporting character in your own story and how they have shaped your identity. How do you honor their belief in you? I'm thrilled to be chatting with Kyrah Potter on this episode of the Self-Centered Living podcast. Kyrah, a fourth-year pre-law student at one of the nation's top Ivy League schools, is not just impressive academically, she's also a dear friend of my son's, and that's how I've come to know her. She's affectionately known as Kiki by her friends. Her intelligence and passion for the world, especially marginalized groups, stand out. Kyrah is a natural leader who values community. She embodies the spice we all need. I adore and am obsessed with her energy and quick wit. Welcome, Kyrah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so excited for our conversation today because in this series, your generation, this is the first time I'm introducing your voice. We also know that you're soon to be a college graduate and you're coming into this very precarious world. It's a challenging time to be full on adulting or be expected to be full on adulting, but here we
Yes.
are. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm also interested in hearing how you're navigating this time of uncertainty
Mhm.
and what it means to define, or maybe it's redefine your own personal story, but to consciously be taking hold of it moving forward, what that means to you. But I like to start out with guests talking about the formative years and not spending a lot of time on the formative years, but I think for listeners, it provides some texture, some context. So we'll dive in there. Maybe we start out looking at who were your primary caregivers growing up?
My primary caregiver was my mother. Yes.
And were there siblings?
And I had one sibling. I had an older brother. He's about 6, 7 years older than me.
Okay. Is it
Same mom, but different dad.
Did you spend a lot of time with him growing up?
His father lived nearby. During the week, he was by us. During the weekends, he was there. Up until high school, we spent a good amount of time together. But then, since he's so much older, he went off onto his own by then.
Okay. Geographically, where did you grow up? Northeast,
Yeah,
southeast?
I grew up in the Northeast, right outside of Philly.
So would you identify yourself as a Philly girl or more around the suburbs of Philly?
More around the suburbs of Philly. Everyone around that area and in Philly, there's a difference between Philly and the people who stay right outside of Philly, because it's really not right outside of Philly, but everyone knows the general area you're talking about.
An important question to ask is
Mhm.
what's better, Philly cheesecake or New York pizza? Tell the truth.
That's a good question. It depends what I'm in the mood for. During the day, if I want a meal, I would want a Philly cheesesteak. If it's late at night and I just want a bite of something or just really craving something, it would be the New York pizza.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
That's pretty neutral. Were there any other cultural influences as you were growing up?
Say so, yes, because my mom and most of the family around me growing up, they migrated from the islands, the Caribbean, either Dominica or St. Thomas, St. Martin, that area. So I had a really big just like Caribbean influence with my family.
Do you regard yourself as Caribbean American?
I don't think I've ever said that, but I do consider myself Caribbean, yes.
Likewise. Growing up just outside of Philadelphia, what does your school time look like? As we're looking at the formative years, also
Mhm,
considering institutions that may have shaped you, community that may have shaped you. I know
mhm,
for me, I grew up in the South Bronx, so we played on the block, we did double
mhm,
dutch, we did blind man bluff, we did all those things, but it's very different than where my parents eventually moved to. Had I grown up there, it would have been very suburban, no
mhm,
playing in the street, no
mhm.
looking in the fire hydrant in the summer. So, how is it for you as far as school and community?
They were very different because I always went to school pretty far from my home. My elementary/middle school actually wasn't that far. It was only 20 minutes away, but my high school was 45 minutes away. I lived pretty far from a lot of my friends, but I really, really did like my school and I really liked going to schools.
What did that look like for you since it was far from home? Was it getting
Mhm.
up and taking an early bus or being dropped
Yeah.
off?
In the elementary and middle school, I guess more so elementary school, my mom would drive me, and I don't think I woke up that early, but when I got older and started taking the bus, I would have to wake up very early, like 5:30.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. The school, was it a very well mixed school?
Both schools were predominantly white. They were both Catholic schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My middle school was archdiocesan school. My high school was independent, but independently Catholic. They were both predominantly white and wealthy, especially my high school.
Ah, tell me a little
Mhm.
bit about that. Tell me a little bit more about that. I'm drawing parallels. I went to an all-girls high school,
Mhm,
Catholics. I went to Catholic school straight through high school, but it was
mhm.
predominantly white. It was essentially 2 brownstones put together. I think my first year, there was maybe 250 students in all.
Mm.
I'm just curious about what your high school experience was.
My high school experience was also all girls private Catholic school. I think it was about 100 people per grade, but then there was also, like, a junior high section, so, like, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, which had, I think, 70 students in each.
Teacher to student ratio looked like what?
I have no clue. I think it was good. It was something they said a lot in, like, the
Okay, so it must have
brochures.
been.
Yeah. But it was a good ratio. It was a small school, a lot of teachers.
Was that a strategic consideration for you and your mother to put you one into Catholic school and then also these specific schools?
I think so, yeah. I remember I asked her at some point because I was like, no one else travels this far to go to school that I know. Why this school? She was just like, I just wanted you to get the best education. I always valued education as well. I've always really liked school and really liked learning. So I never did mind. My brother went to the same middle school as me. It was co-ed. So she started it back then with him and then sent me there. The high school I went to starts at 6th grade. I considered going there starting then, but it was too expensive. So we decided to wait on until high school and apply for financial aid, and then they gave it. From my middle school, there are 5 or 6 schools that people tend to go to. The one I went to wasn't necessarily popular. It was a little further than the ones in the area from my middle school, so not many people every year went, but for some reason, I was just drawn to it. Since I considered going there in 6th grade, it was just always set in my mind that I was gonna go there in high school, and my mom really liked the school. It was really nice. She wanted to, like, give me the best shot to go to an Ivy League, so she really wanted to put me where I would succeed the best in her eyes, yeah.
Just to clarify, the idea to go on the IB track, did that start in 6th grade or was that seed planted earlier?
Very early on, I feel like I've heard of Ivies, but more so Yale, Princeton, those 3, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna go." I wanted to go to Yale, actually. It was a combination of my family just always referencing Ivy League and them, but also the TV shows I watched. I was like, "Okay, that's the place I should go then." And
What TV
so
shows were you watching?
Disney Channel, the smart character in every show, they always went to, I think it was mostly Yale. That's why I had my sight set on Yale.
So knowing that you were gonna be in the Ivy track,
Mhm.
how did that shape how you approached your education,
Mhm.
and the things that you involved yourself in?
Well, I've always been super intrinsically motivated to learn. I've just always been super curious. Because of that, it set me up to do well in school from a very young age. Like I was doing super well in school. Because of that, I'm like, oh, I'm smart. And it was just the natural, if you're smart, you go to an Ivy. I was just like, okay, like that's what I'm gonna do. Growing older and being in high school, I was always like, okay, what do I need to do to get into there? And they'd always be like, you don't need to worry about that until next year, until next year, until next year. But I was always super aware and always knowing that that's what I wanted to do. Then when it got closer and I realized the college application process and cycle and environment, I was like, oh, it's like not that easy. It's not just you're smart, you go to an Ivy. It's really variable. A lot goes into it that you can't really control. I feel like the college application process was very stressful because of that. It wasn't entirely in my control when I thought that it would be.
At the same time that you were going through the college application process, we were also in COVID. Did you get to visit without saying where you are? Because that we won't tell, we won't reveal, but without saying that, were you able to visit different campuses?
I was actually not formally, except
Mhm.
for one. They had like a high school like student visit thing before
Okay.
COVID. So I got to visit that in person, one of the Ivies. Other than that, I didn't get to except for the summer before my senior year.
Mhm.
Me and my friend, we went on a road trip. Me, her, and her family. We visited a bunch of colleges in the Northeast. We visited 15. Like, we would just like
Oh
get
my
up, walk
gosh.
around the campus, and then like go to the next one. For over the course of like 3 days, it was
Oh my
really
gosh, that's
fun.
brutal. That's intense.
It was intense, but it was really fun.
I'm glad you mentioned high school. They were telling you, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that yet. Oh, you don't have to worry about that until junior year," which is not accurate,
Yeah.
especially if you're pursuing Ivy. You start setting up, I'd say, as early as middle school, which it sounds like the idea at least was there. Actually, the idea, also you coming from a Caribbean background, probably was from birth. You're going Ivy.
Yeah.
Um, I say that and say that out loud so that if there's anybody who's considering that and considering that for their child or for themselves, it's not something you pick up junior year and decide you're going to do. The planting of the
Mhm,
seed of it and the work and filling out your whole story to be able to enter Ivy starts much sooner. So I'm glad that you
mhm,
knew that,
mhm,
"No, no, no, this is something that I need to be mindful of." You said the college application process. Let's talk
mhm.
about that. For me going into college, there was one essay you did for all of your applications. Now, each school has their own essays with an S at the end because it could be
Yeah.
multiple. My son applied to, I believe, 11 schools. Let's just times that by 3 essays, not including the common, what is it, curriculum or common
The
core
Common
essay,
App, yeah.
common app essay. That's 33 essays at minimum. Some had 4. They varied in size. Did you have help with that process? Are you a first gen college student, or how was that whole
Mhm.
process for you?
I'm not a first gen college student. My mom did go to college, but yeah, her college application process was also just very different. So she went to college in the Caribbean, in the islands. It was very different from being here. So I don't think I asked her for a lot of help because we at my school we had college counselor. And I had a very good relationship with them. Like we had three, but each person was assigned one. I just like made friends with all three of them. I was just in their offices like every day, just
That sounds very kiki.
yeah,
Good for
talking
you.
to them,
Yeah.
ranting, like my stress. I feel like I went to them for help a lot. I did get a lot of help. I like had everything read over a bunch of times. I was like, oh, should I do say this for this or this for this, whatever. So they were incredibly helpful. But yeah, I applied to I think 16 schools. So it was a long process.
You applied to 16. We had to have a strategy. It was like, okay,
Mhm,
these are going to be our top 3. And these are the
mhm.
ones that, if we get in, great. If not, did you have a strategy in terms of how you approached it? Okay.
Yeah, there was the safeties and then the targets and then the reaches.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think I had maybe 1 or 2 safeties. The targets and the reaches were just super I don't know, what I considered a reach versus a target. Like, I feel like a normal person would be like, "No, like, those are all reaches." In my head, I was like, "Well, no." Then I was like, "Well, yes." And so, like, I just was like, "Oh, like, I need to keep on applying to more just to, like, try to just play the odds." And I also think because it was COVID, all the school I think all the schools were test optional. So I don't think I even took the SAT or the ACT. I think I took a practice one and I don't think I did that
Really?
well. So I was really scared for that in the beginning. But then they all went test optional and I was like, wait, great. That would have probably been my biggest weakness. So I was like, a lot of these are more so targets as opposed to reaches. And it'll just be luck of the draw almost. At least like 10 of them were definitely reaches.
For your main essay, what did you focus on as far as topics? I asked that question because the US Supreme Court ruled against the use of race in college admissions, effectively ending race based affirmative action programs in higher education, June 2023, I believe. There is, however, a loophole where you can mention your race in your essay, perhaps leading to a diversity acceptance.
Mm.
I want to dispel the myth, and I think Michelle Obama might have mentioned this in her book with regards to attending Princeton, this idea that if you are a student of color, you've gotten there through affirmative action, that you haven't had to
Mhm,
work hard. If you're on the Ivy track and you are a student of color, guess what? You have to work harder.
mhm.
You have to work harder. Just wanted to dispel that. But what was the focus of your essay? I learned a lot about my son reading his essay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My essay, I don't remember it that much. I don't think it was that good. My supplemental essays were a lot better and
Yeah.
are what showed my personality more and got me into most of the schools.
Mhm.
My big essay, I didn't want to focus on any individual part of my identity or part of my like trauma or anything super
Okay.
emotional just cuz
Yeah.
I hadn't written anything about it up until that point. I didn't know how, and I was just like, "Well, I don't wanna make them feel bad for me to let me in."
Okay.
I was very deliberate in not writing about any of that. So I wrote about, I'm pretty sure the central theme, the idea was about, so growing up, I was really okay, ever since I watched the movie Hidden Figures in 6th or 7th grade or 5th grade, I forget. I really wanted to work for NASA. This was also around the time where it was women in STEM, girls who code, and everything like that. I was very much a STEM centered person because of that. And because if I'm going to be considered successful, I need to work in a STEM field and all this stuff. I very much fell into that mindset
Mhm.
and was like that up until my sophomore, junior year of high school when I realized that what I really like is history and politics and argument. I still kind of like coding and engineering and all that stuff, but I realized like I put myself into this box like so early on that's not necessarily like what I'm most intrinsically like drawn to. I wrote about that. I didn't frame it as necessarily a switch because like I still applied to my colleges as like a like potential double major with computer science and political science. So at this point I was like, oh, I'm gonna parallel track both of them. And I just wrote about that realization because I took my AP US history class. I really enjoyed it. My teacher was very good and he would always argue with me about everything. I realized I really liked to argue about these things. I was like, oh, like I'm really into this and rethink my path. I wrote about that and also how that made me reconsider just other things in my life, but that was more an afterthought. The main focus was about my switch over to more political argument stuff.
As an admissions officer, that would be interesting for me,
Mhm,
that you would have the maturity and the courage to do the switch. Because
mhm.
oftentimes people get locked in,
Yeah.
or it's, your parents telling you, this is your track, this is what you're doing. That's what I call the midlife crisis, when you've gotten halfway through life and you realize, oh, shit, I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I
Yeah.
think there shows a lot of maturity to early on realize that, or consider both tracks versus one or
Mhm,
the other. Well, congratulations, the Ivies, the top five. I think the acceptance rate is between 3 and 5.8%. You are in the top three. Do you feel once you get in, having done all that work, going through 16 applications, um, going through high school, middle school, so do you feel like, this is an accomplishment? The gates to heaven have opened.
So I feel like I I feel like I have to, like, actively think about that. Being here, just being surrounded by everyone else who accomplished the same thing, it's not as obvious than when, like, I go back home and everyone just really, like, hangs on to the fact that, like, this is an accomplishment and really, like, I'm like, "Oh, wow, like, it was 3% acceptance rate. This is not the normal act for most people." Then I really think about it, I'm like, "Wow, like, that is true." But in my day-to-day life, it's just, "Okay, it is what it is," and that's just what we're all going through because all my friends, are in the same boat. I don't really, realize it as big of a deal as it is. But sometimes it's not even that big of a deal, but then I'm like, "Okay, but it is," and it's just this whole internal, uh, thing.
Were there any pivotal moments on getting to Ivy that stand out for you?
Getting into
The whole process of just getting to where you are.
when I was really getting into the deep in the beginning, which was kinda before many people, when I really started researching everything and going to webinars and realizing just 3% what that means and trying to understand that statistically I'm not going to get in. That was hard because growing up, it was always you're smart, you go to an Ivy. That was just the understanding and what all my family understood, especially because they're first gen coming in. They aren't as entrenched in understanding the culture of college admissions, and they did it so long ago. I feel they didn't really understand how hard it was gonna be. I was worried that if I failed, they would be like, "Oh, maybe she's not smart. Why didn't she get in?" When it really you can be super smart and have everything going for you, but there's still a good chance you're not gonna get in. It's extremely competitive in so many different ways. I felt like I was understanding that very early on, but my family mostly didn't really understand that during the junior year and the application process. Like there was still just the expectation. It was just it
Yeah.
wasn't really like necessarily pressure. Like, you have to go here, you have to do this, like you gotta do this. It was just more so just like offhand comments where they just
Mm,
expected me to do it. That was more pressure for me because I think it's so easy and I gotta just do it to make it look easy when it's looking like it's gonna be very
yeah,
hard. So just trying to like, understand all of that, and trying to figure all of that out was a really big
okay. One of the schools that you're attending now, was that your number 1?
it was the number 1 that I got into. I did not get into Yale, which would have been my number 1, but this was probably my number 2 or 3, yes.
Was your mother with you when you got the exam? I'm assuming you did it online. You find out. What was
I
that
went and
moment like?
told her. It was really crazy. I remember it was Ivy Day, so all the Ivies came out at the same time. I applied to 4 or 5. What
Mhm.
I did was I had all the tabs open on my computer, ready to click. Once the clocks, like, struck 6, I went through and clicked all of them. I forget the order of them, but I got into 2 of the 4 or 5. The school I'm now attending was one of them. I got rejected or waitlisted from a couple of them. I was just so excited, but I received so much information at once. So it was just like, ah. I was in my room and my mom was downstairs. She was cooking. I don't think I told her that it was Ivy Day just in case I didn't get in. I didn't want her to be asking about it. I'd eventually tell her.
Smart move.
Yeah. I already had gotten into good schools that I would have been very happy to go to prior. So it was as big of a deal, but I just didn't tell her because I didn't want the
You don't want the
expectation or
me.
pressure.
Like, "What's
Yeah,
going on? What's going on?"
yeah. She was cooking, I ran downstairs and I told her. She was so happy. Hide, and she was like, "Ah, yeah." I think she was on the phone with someone and she told them. And I'm just like, "Oh, I gotta go." And she called so many other people. She was calling them. I was upstairs and I was just searching things about the schools because now all the other schools I think that I got into, I was just like, no, like it's gonna be one of these two now. I was like texting my other friends and I sent an email to my college counselors and my teachers. I was so excited. I was telling everyone. So like that was the day. I was like, wow, like that's
Nice,
crazy.
nice. Now you're on
Yeah.
campus. I'm curious about once you get to the university. Again, my reference is reading Michelle Obama's book, Becoming,
Mhm.
and what she does share about her experience at her Ivy, which at the time was Princeton. This is probably the late mid 1980s she's entering. I'm curious about how much of that has changed or what your experience was in reading her book. She describes a small Black student population at Princeton. She compares it to being poppy seeds in a bowl of rice. At the time that she was attending, it was mostly white students and heavily male. She also said it was like stepping on stage at your first piano recital and realizing that you'd never played anything but an instrument with broken keys.
Mm,
She's coming out of Chicago, south side of Chicago. You're
mhm,
coming out of the suburbs just outside of Philly. You went to Catholic school, private school.
mhm,
So your mother was very strategic about where she was putting you, wanted to give you the
mhm,
best opportunity to get into Ivy. So fast forward your generation, what was your experience, a student of color, going
mhm.
into your Ivy campus?
My experience was a little different, especially because I made some friends beforehand, before going in, and most of them were people of color. So I knew I had people to look for and gravitate towards and just connect with. I had people there already, so I wasn't going in blind. It was very white, but that wasn't something
You weren't used
that
to.
yeah, that I wasn't used to. It was more diverse than what I'm used to significantly, so that was just
Wow.
out yeah, so I was just like, "This is great." I also think very quickly it starts to feel a lot more diverse than it actually is, depending on what circles you start to form and what groups you start to gravitate towards. Because of that, for a good 2 years, I was really truthfully convinced that my Ivy was a lot more diverse than it really was. I was really surprised when I heard the statistics. I was like, really? I guess I'm really surrounding myself with people of color who are here and at all times. Because even sometimes walking around and when I'm at my friend's dorm with their friends and everything, I was just like, in my life and track and everything, I'm surrounding myself at every point with people of color. And I now know that there are significant white segments that are the same thing that I'm doing, but just white. I'm just like, wow, like that's crazy. Sometimes I happen upon them in certain things. I see pictures or I walk into a room and it's like clearly like, everyone's their friends. I'm like, everyone here is white. I'm like, wow, like how did that happen? That felt very strategic because on my end it was strategic to surround myself with people of color. I think my Ivy is diverse enough to the point where I feel to have all white, it has to be deliberate.
That's significant because, again, going back to the book, which I was using to gauge experience and how it may have changed or might not have changed, there seemed to have been a burden really on the student of color to really mix into this population, not the university taking hold of it. It sounds like that your university may have made some strides to the point that you would not know that it wasn't as diverse. You'd have to
Mhm,
look at the numbers. I can say as a parent visiting, I thought the same. I was warmly surprised, like, oh my
mhm,
gosh, there's people that look like me. There's people who look
mhm,
like my son inside of the community. I feel like there was a good mix. Also knowing that he could navigate both worlds if he needed to, but just didn't
mhm.
want him to be in a space where he had to be code switching all the time and doing
Yeah.
those things. But I think
Mhm,
another significant thing to recognize is that you also went into it fully knowing who you wanted to surround yourself with,
yeah.
fully knowing what you wanted community to look like. So let's talk about that a little bit. Sounds like you had a strategy. Sounds like community was important. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, just coming from the middle school and high school I came from, I enjoyed my time at both, but I knew that I didn't want to be around just white and wealthy people. This time in my head, high school, I was like, I'm gonna enjoy my time, but this is just a means to get to college. That was my mindset for high school for a lot of different things. I didn't really care that much to be particularly like popular, just go to part. I was like, I'm just doing the work to get into a really great school where I will have fun. I will really branch out and try to do everything else. But right here, I have one job and it's still get great grades. I still made great friends that I still love and talk to this day. But in coming to college, I was like, okay, I really want my friends to be culturally diverse in many ways. I had that mindset early on, and I knew a lot of people tend to stick with who they meet and just group with early on, and then it probably falls apart. And 2 whatever years, we have orientation groups, and that group was actually pretty white. There were, like, maybe 12 of us total, and, 4 of us were people of color. I liked them, but a lot of people tend to stick with that group for the first couple of weeks. I was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna do that." I was in a quad with 3 other people, 2 of them were white, and, it was very early on. We just had very different personalities. We got along for the most part, but it was clear that we weren't gonna be a quad that is a best friend group. So I was like, "Okay, that's not gonna be my primary group either." Then there was, like, the rest of my floor there were just a lot of men on the floor, and I didn't necessarily want to be friends with them either. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to really go and branch out, which I had no problem doing. Love meeting new people. At the beginning of college was great for me. I talked to anyone. I was mainly drawn to people whose fashion I liked. I would go up to people and be like, "Oh my gosh, I really like your outfit." We talk, and that's how a lot of friendships formed. That's how I made a lot of my friends freshman year. In the very beginning, before classes started, one of my best friends to this day, that's how I met her. It was just on a night out. We were walking down the street, like, we just started talking, and she introduced me to one of her friends from her orientation group who was a person of color. And then, and then one of the people that I was talking to before school started online, like through Instagram, the 4 of us just kind of became a group. Like, that's the group that I stuck with. I made that group the first or second week there. Then I started joining clubs and meeting more people. I inserted myself in many other circles that were just, I don't know, just somehow more diverse to begin with. So that's how I navigated that. In the beginning, I was very strategic. I would enter a group and I'd be like, no, this
Not
group,
it.
no, this group, no. And I landed on one. I was like, this is where I feel good. I feel like this works the best. I feel like this will have the most longevity. And it did, because we're still really close friends to this day.
Which is amazing. My son said, "Freshman year, you're not even a person yet." But I remember him navigating the same thing as you said, trying to figure out, "Okay,
Mhm.
who's my tribe?"
Yeah.
I think he landed at 3 different friend groups, which I
Yes.
think represents these different aspects of him. How about you? How many different friend groups?
Um, Main friend groups, I would say the 3 other people, but the 4 of us,
Mhm.
that was solid and just like a core group early on. Then the main club I joined was mock trial. So that mock trial team, it was like there were 30 of us, 2 groups inside that 30 that I got really close to and still am very close to this day. I was in a freshman seminar. I wouldn't even say we were a group, but there were a lot of individual relationships that formed from there. I met their friends and they met my friends, and things blossomed from there. I think that's where a lot of my friendships came from. Then also just at social events, like at parties, there was consistently people you would see there. Like at a certain point, you're just like, oh my God, we're friends now. I think that was also like a group of people that I would consider just a friend group as well. So freshman year, four like distinct
Mhm.
groups.
How many are you ending with in your 4th year?
What happens is that they combine a lot. I have maybe 2 sets, like there are 2 like wings of them. There's some overlap there, but not like significant overlap, obviously, in terms of groups. I'd say I have a really strong trio here that's from my mock trial team from freshman year generally, which is also expanded into 12 people total. Not even from my mock trial team, just from other things at its core, like a really strong trio there. And my like quad quartet from freshman year. Sophomore year, that's when your son joined that and we became like 5 of us. Then it also expanded into now probably 10 people generally
Wow.
on that side of things. I would say those 2 sections.
Now you're 4 years in, you're about to graduate. If there was one key thing that you learned about yourself, what would it be?
That's a good question. Let me think about this for 1 second. One thing I learned kind of new also in high school is my confidence and the way I navigate the world. I'm very this is how it's gonna be, and it's gonna be like that because I'm gonna make it like that. That's just my mindset when it comes to a lot of things. The things that statistically probably won't happen or shouldn't happen. I'm just like, well, it's going to happen. I just work towards it. That's something that a lot of my friends have brought up at various times, and I didn't realize. I have to sometimes look back and be like, wow, I really did that. I really did that. No prep, no anything. And it turned out great. It was just amazing. And I have really big confidence in myself. And I told myself my capabilities, especially, very high. And sometimes I'm like, is that completely warranted? It seems that it is warranted most of the time. I realized for the course of my years that I have a lot of ambition, but I don't even consider it to be ambition per se. It's just how I think and how
It's
I
how
view
you're wired.
myself in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. I had another guest. She's like, "This thing that I take for granted, I see a problem, I'm gonna create the solution." And
Yeah.
she does it very well, and she does it often. It took someone pointing out, "You take it for granted, the way that you approach life, that's not everybody." It's a gift, for the most part, a gift that she totally didn't notice, like, "Yeah, I got this
Mhm.
capability." I hear the same in you, like, "Hey, I'm ambitious. I say this is what I'm going for, and this is what I'm gonna get."
Mhm.
So, remember that. If you now had a child of your own, having
Mhm.
had your experience in the Ivy, I ask this question because I think Ivies are under attack now. I don't think we know that for certain. When I went into college, I thought that it was going to be this bastion of free speech. I certainly thought that the Ivies would be.
Mhm.
And now we see that free speech is under attack. We know that affirmative action has been taken away. So if you had a child now, or for anybody in a BIPOC community, would you recommend Ivy? What would the considerations be?
Considerations for me would be that child is drawn to naturally. If they have a really strong connection with education, learning, curiosity, I would recommend the Ivies because of the opportunity offered, the connections, the speakers that are here, the archives we have access to, the databases and everything, and the
The
professors you learn
professors,
under.
which you and I
Yeah.
emailed you about one that I am so in love with.
Yes, yes. Yes, exactly. I think that is really something undeniable and truly unique and special about the Ivies or elite education
Mhm.
to begin with. If you really seek that and will value that, then the Ivies like would be an appropriate and like goal and place to be. But if you are more so a creative person, an artistic person, and that isn't necessarily like where you would find your joy, then you might feel a bit stifled. It just depends what path they want and not what path their parents want or anything society wants, just what they want. Because I think so many other schools could offer better things in better areas. And especially with mental health, you would maybe have a better time. It depends on what you want to get out of it. If it's really access in the conversation with so many people, like thinking about my professors and just the people who have been here, um, who gotten a chance to like attend their events and their speeches. I'm just like, wow, this is really something that I am able to do because I go here. I really appreciate that and understand that and would seek out this opportunity again for this outcome. But that is not everyone. I don't think it should be universally pushed as the place to be or the goal because it really depends on what your goals are and how you want to accomplish them because I also feel like there's one way to do it and you really have to push through and prove to yourself and to the institution why you deserve to be there and stay there. That might not be the most comfortable or the most desirable place. You might not want to experience that. I think that's completely valid, but while you're here, like that's gonna be how it is. My understanding is that they make it super just like rigid to like maintain to help maintain that like elites. I remember like in my first couple years that was like a big deal with like our president and like mental health and like what are you gonna do? And it's like, well, that comes with the territory, whether it's warranted or not. I think that is it does come with the territory here it depends, like, if that's gonna be worth it or not, I would say.
That's no, and that makes perfect sense
Mhm,
because you raise a good point around mental health. There has not been a year that has gone by where I have not read or learned about suicides. So if the president is saying, okay, this type of rigor, this type of strain just goes with
mhm,
the territory, you have to figure it out. Yeah, to the person who's considering places to go, if you don't wanna be in an environment where you may feel like every day you need to prove
mhm,
that you deserve to be there, that type of pressure and rigor is not the most healthy place for you to be. As a mother, as a child in that environment, establishing confidence and constantly checking in and making sure that they
mhm.
have a good community and reminding them that, well, you more than belong there is definitely important. But even for them to discover that for themselves, and to your point,
Yeah,
to go in there being the decider of what communities you wanna be a part of, not trying to be in places and spaces that don't serve you well. There's definitely those type of considerations. Now you're about to approach graduation and the energy, the fervor, like how do you pursue your passion and maintain that? We'll talk about what you're getting into, what you're moving into. What's top of mind for me is you come out of school, you have these hopes and these dreams. It's the challenge now is how do I help these materialize with the education
mhm,
and the exposure that I've had? I was listening to Trevor Noah's show, What Now? He had Rucker Bregman, I believe his name is. He's a historian and author, but more popularly known now for he was in Davos Economic Forum in 2019, and he really took the billionaires to task, calling them out on tax avoidance. I'm mentioning him because he was saying on the show that when you read Ivy college essays and you hear what the students want, they want to solve the world's problems. They want to make the
mhm.
world a better place. And then when they graduate, give or take a couple of years, Mackenzie comes and now they're
Yeah.
in his exact words, these soul crushing positions. Where are the dreams? Where do the hopes go? What's your intention around pursuing your passion and staying in contact with that passion?
Yes. Yes, that's something I also have noticed. So many people from this school just go into consulting, go into like McKinsey or Blackstone or B&J. I don't even know what they
There
are,
was a
but
statistic. It said in 2022 of Ivy, 50% went to finance and management consulting.
yeah, it's crazy. That's never interested me. I don't know if it interests the people who are going into it either. I think maybe like the paycheck does. For me, I've always had this want and desire to change the world, the country, whatever, because I'm just like I'm wired in that like that's what I'm gonna do. Like I'm gonna do it. It's just I've never really detoured from that or have been like, I don't know, attracted to these other things because I just don't see the value of it. I don't think I would be fulfilled. And it's a lot of people that I also talk to. They're like, yeah, like, I'm just gonna do it for a couple years and then like whatever. I feel like I wouldn't be happy doing it. I want to go to law school, but in 2 years, 1 or 2 years after graduation. And until then, I want to work probably at a nonprofit, work as a paralegal and criminal defense. I always want to do something where I feel fulfilled and where I feel I'm making a positive difference because I feel once you graduate and go into work, that is a lot of your life. I want to do something that I truthfully intrinsically am drawn to and enjoy and feel good about. I've never been drawn to that and I don't think I will be drawn to it. And I always think about like, ugh, what if I have to go into it like out of necessity? And I'm
Right.
like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but I really want to fully exhaust every other possible option and probably wait it out, like, as much as I can if I ever feel the need to really consider that. I don't wanna prematurely consider it. For now, it's not an option, and 'cause, again, I'm very ambitious and, like, this is how it's gonna be, and if I have to change what it's gonna be, like, I'll change it, but it'll be my decision when it comes. For now, I still have options and opportunities. I really wanna exhaust that, before I need to consider going into selling out and going into other other, uh, fields.
It sounds like the paralegal route
Mhm.
does line you up for law school. There's
Yeah.
some strategy in doing that. That's a carrot, but that's a bridge to what you ultimately want to do. In
Mhm.
law school, however, you want to be, is it on the appellate side or
I've had 2 interests in law. It's a constitutional and criminal defense. There's an intersection of that, which is the constitutional rights of criminal defendants. Because that's the intersection, I think I'm going to primarily try to focus on that. That would probably be more so criminal defense, and, like, appellate work.
Mhm,
I generally think that they are a vulnerable group that people aren't particularly sympathetic to naturally, but I am. Understanding just all, like, the layered this otherness and injustice that is put onto them, and also seeing how it's justified and continues to be justified, and through people with reasonable minds who aren't necessarily bigoted or grew up a certain way or who I think have like well intentions. It's just a punishing mindset and
mhm,
just a way to justify the treatment of people deemed as criminals. Like once that label is put on you, it's okay, anything goes. I don't know. I feel like I'm particularly sympathetic to it, especially because of the way that most people aren't. So that's where I need to be to protect interests. That's why I want to go into criminal defense work, because I think a lot of people are of the opinion that they don't deserve due process. Like so many just like
right,
offhanded comments about, oh, if you're a criminal, like you don't deserve so many things. If we deem you a criminal, you don't deserve so many things. That part there is like, if we deem you that, most people don't think about the fact that like that could easily be them. Like, even if they don't think that they're doing necessarily things criminal, it's like if there aren't people there to like protect defendants like rights, what is stopping like anyone deeming you a criminal, whether it's warranted or not? The label is powerful, and so there's a two-pronged approach. What can the label justify you doing, but also who decides who gets that label? It's both of those. I think some people are only focused on wrongfully convicted, everything in that regard. People who are like rightfully convicted, who like are like quote unquote like guilty of whatever like the crime was, they still are a human being and they still deserve like rights and just for certain protections. I think a lot of people just don't believe that. That is just something that I do believe in and want to fight for, because like they're just getting like withered away. Rights of like criminal defendants and just people incarcerated like as a whole.
I hear you on that. I hear the interest in the constitutional side of it and the defense side of it with the
Mhm.
combination of what I hear is that there's really a desire to make change on the structural level and maybe starting with this perception of what a criminal is. I know there's a term for a person who is in jail, elderly, but for a crime that they committed as early as a teenager, 15 or so, and
Mhm.
they're still in jail.
Yeah.
What is the process of looking at what a 15-year-old might have done? What is warranting, to your
Mm.
point, being punitive versus, well, let's just say that incarceration, I don't know what spaces where they rehabilitate you or that that's
Yeah.
a method for rehabilitating you. So I think structurally there's so much there. I know before I was just like, Kiki, AI, almost gonna be wide open. As I hear you talk about this and talk about needs, knowing where your passion lies, that seems like it really does line up. I never considered it in a way that, okay, defending and trying to protect the rights of people who most people aren't thinking about or
Yeah.
just don't have any empathy towards.
Mhm.
So, yeah, yeah. You're coming up to your milestone of graduation. The piece that we haven't really spoken about is your mother was there for that moment when you learned about,
Mhm.
and she also set the trail for it, seeing in you
Yeah.
and knowing what's in you, this Ivy pursuit. I think of it as how I hold it for me and my son. It's not just
Mhm.
his graduation, whether or not he knows it.
Yeah.
It's a milestone for me as well. You're
Mhm.
moving into this space of uncertainty, but it's also compounded by your recent loss of your mother, Ingrid
Mhm.
Warrington. I want to say her name because she's here.
Mhm.
As a mother, I know I can't speak for her, but I know I feel a lot of pride in you. I think about you crossing that graduation stage and wanting you so deeply to be able to feel that she's with you. And so, not in many words, we don't need to spend a lot of time here because it's raw and recent. How has this moment changed you?
Yeah, I think it's changed me a lot, especially just because he was my primary caregiver. So it's just like I feel like with the loss of a parent, for like most people, it's like it's the loss of one, and then you like, rely on the other. But for me, it's more so my everything. In that way, like I was just like, okay, I'm needing to become a lot more independent. That was gonna always need to happen regardless, given that I'm graduating and moving on to the next chapter. I still think I would have relied on her some more, maybe too much. Maybe I really needed to just be thrown into it, but yeah, I feel like I was just really thrown into adulthood, like, this is what needs to be done, and I have family helping me out and everything. It's not the same, so it's just very self-reliant, and I also think a lot of my confidence, I attribute it to my mom. The reason I think I can do anything is because my mom thought I can do anything, and so it's just holding that with me whenever I'm in that mindset of, like, I can do this," like, I also, like that's when, like, I feel like my mom there, and she's like, "Yes, you can do this," and so that's also where I hold her a lot. When I graduate, I feel she'll be there and be like, "You did it." I'll be like, "Yes, I did." Just, like, there with me because I feel like she always knew it, so she doesn't need to necessarily be there to see it, because, like, there's never any doubt in terms of my life. I feel like a lot of people think about, like, their life as, like, book and, like, a chapter you're in. For me, this is, like, the ending of a book, and then, like,
Yeah.
next year is gonna be the start of a new book. My life is more so gonna be a trilogy of some sort. Yeah, this year is just a lot of just endings and needing to
Yeah.
wrap things up and close things, but also prepare for new things because of the alignment of so many things. It's just gonna be the end of a whole book, and the start of a new.
That's a good way to I hadn't considered that. I know you and I talked about importance and certainly around this podcast is us
Mhm.
narrating our own stories, but the thought that, okay, I'm in a trilogy potentially.
Yeah.
The first part of it, that story is written, that's coming to a conclusion, and there's the next part. I'm certainly excited. I hold a lot of belief and confidence in what you're going to do next, and what you're doing now. Forget about next. What you're doing now. I like the idea of the trilogy. As we begin to wrap up, are there any key insights that you discovered or that you felt would be helpful for listeners to consider? I know for one of the things that I've heard throughout is this self confidence and this ability
Mhm,
to create it and support it and be in community
mhm,
that reflects the beliefs that you have in yourself. I also see, and holding it also as a parent, our ability to see in our children what they can blossom in and to feed that and to hold that in terms of how we're helping to co-create what their life is going to look like. I say co-create because I know that's a different parenting style, but a lot of it is being able to look at your child and see the possibilities. I say that for
mhm.
anybody who also is listening to somebody's story, the important role of the witness. That witness for me has to be able to recognize the multitude of possibilities in that person that's telling their story. As far as insights, those are some bringing for me. Other piece was strategy. You went into this knowing, all right, I need to hunker down, do my schoolwork. This is the environment that I'm in,
Mhm.
but this is not my forever environment. That when I
Yeah,
have choice and I can choose, this will look different. And then you entered into the Ivy world and you sought out community that reflects your beliefs, that can also reflect the confidence that you have in yourself. There's a lot of really intelligent things there that I've heard. I am sure I'm missing a lot of it, but those are the ones that screamed out at me. Maybe the last part that I'll say also too, as far as insights I hear you thinking about is this passion, this drive that I have, how do I find the route that best supports that? We don't know what that looks like completely. You do have some ideas around it, maybe paralegal, next step or so,
mhm.
nonprofit, advocacy work, but also being strategic about how do I protect this passion? It might come a time and ahead of time preparing for does it have to be passion against survival? For those who did end up in consultancy, some of it probably was that dollar really did look attractive, that income really did look
Yeah,
attractive, but it may have started as I just got to feed myself. And
yeah,
here you thinking ahead of like, how do I not even get into that situation? Which I think again is important.
yeah.
Any
I would
other
agree.
insights?
Yeah, I think you hit most of them. The only other thing I would add, thinking about what you as a person want and those passions and really figuring that out as early as possible, even if it's right now, wherever you are, instead of what anyone else or what is like expected of you or what society as a whole thinks. And that can be aligned, but it also like doesn't have to be. And just trying to figure out where one ends and another thing begins, where it's yourself wanting this, desiring this, being drawn to this, and then going for that. That's just something a lot of people I don't think have figured out and just they let like their lives be like decided by other factors and then just like go along for the ride. I feel like you should
Yeah,
be in like the driver's seat of it. That would be my advice.
I love that because that's all about
Mhm.
self-centered living. It's
Yeah.
life is not happening to you, life is happening
Mhm.
through you. The
Yeah.
sooner you figure that out, the more creative you can be with it too. Let's end with this. What's the one thing you're looking forward to post-graduation?
Post graduation? Hmm. Oh, wait, that's a good question. I'm really excited to go to law school within a year or two. I'm also really excited to live on my own, probably with roommates. I'll hopefully live in a city, and make friends and be close to friends and live like an adult life, have an apartment and all of that. I'm really excited for that. I haven't really been thinking about it too much because I'm like, oh, let's get through my thesis first. Let's get through
That's right,
this,
that's
and
right.
that first. I think once I'm done all of that and like I have something to like actually look forward to, I'll start like romanticizing, like, oh my God, I'll live like two subway stops away from this and this. I'll be close to my friends and we'll have monthly, weekly, whatever dinners. I'm excited for like that kind of lifestyle. I really like the college lifestyle. I really like large community living, being so close to everyone at all times. But I've always like welcomed change. I'm gonna be excited to change it up and live like a young adult in a big city lifestyle.
I think it's so important for us to be able to articulate and say what we need. Ideally, as you enter the second part of the trilogy, what does good support look like to Kiki? Kyra Potter, the support you're going to give her looks like this. This is what will be most helpful.
It would be just like showing up. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes, like, it could like, if I'm just overwhelmed, like, busy, like, I would just be like, "Okay, let me just get through this first, like, tunnel vision on one thing and just zone out everything around me." The best support will be just, like, breaking into that at certain
Mhm.
points and being like, "Hi, like, I'm here, like, I know you're locked in, but I'm here. Do you need anything?" That would be what the best support looks like.
I like that.
Mhm,
Well, Kyra Potter, thank you so much
mhm.
for joining me today.
Thank you for
I'll be
having
checking
me.
on you. I'm excited about your future. I'm excited about your future.
Cute.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Self Centered Living. If you have enjoyed it and it has been beneficial in any way, I would love to hear from you. Please email me at info@self-centeredliving.com. Our music is Tide Turns by Ketsu. Our show notes include information about our participants. I'll meet you back here for next week's episode. Take care until then.